Well, happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Happy post-Christmas, right? Day after Christmas. And I hope everybody had a great Christmas to whatever, however it is you celebrate Christmas. For us, it was a little bit different. This was really our first year. We tried to push back to a large degree on consumerism, right?
Yep.
And we got to really spend most of our time just with our families and didn't do a lot of, exception of the kids, right? Didn't do a lot of presents or anything like that. Didn't do a big meal, at least not a traditional meal.
I was just say I still cook.
Yeah,
What are you
I'm
talking
talking-
about?
You know what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
You know what I'm
we
talking
didn't we didn't have a turkey,
Yeah, you're right. We
but
didn't
my
have
plate was full.
yeah, something like that. Something like that happened, right? And did any of you guys do anything excellent for Christmas? Anything
Different,
yeah.
same,
Yeah, different.
traditional.
Yeah, I think we're going to keep trying to challenge some of those boundaries. I think in our home and
Yeah.
see if we can work really hard on trying to create some of our own traditions and things to follow that aren't just so wrapped up into consumerism and all of the craziness that goes on in the zoo. I read an interesting tweet from somebody that was talking about how kids no longer think that Christmas is special because they receive gifts year round. And it used to be where it'd be something, all the anticipation and then all of this stuff, for Christmas time. But that now, because there's so many holidays and so many things we have to buy for and so many, that it's just none of it's, special anymore.
Yeah.
And that we've taken from our kids, what it is to be special. But anyway,
The need to want,
yeah. And to
the
dream,
ability to want,
to dream.
to get everything they want,
Yeah.
that you can't.
Do you remember being young? I don't know if you did, but like flipping through the Sears catalog, the JCPenney's catalog.
And what you would do just to get that one item.
Yeah,
I
you'd
just really
circle
want
them, and
that.
yeah, you'd kind of dream about it, and those kind of things. But
Yeah.
anyway, let's get some hellos in. Greatest name on the internet
Half of Laughlin.
is in the house, as is my buddy Scott. Scott, how are you? Yad, what's going on? Welcome in. No lives complete without a.
Without a pack rat.
We got Bessie Darling in the house. ACM Homestead is here. I hope Cindy and Adam are doing well. We'll be cool. Good to see you. Lisa says, I'm confused. Hi, I enjoyed the live this afternoon. I wasn't on a live this afternoon. Maybe it was something I recorded with somebody earlier and that just now came out or something. I don't know. I'd love to know. I'd love to know where you watched me live at today. I didn't think I was
I'd
live.
like to see you live too.
Yeah. Let's see here. My buddy Mo. What's up, dude? Good to see you, man. Yep. Jane Marie. Hello. Good to see you. The king himself, Jeff, Gypsy, Hefty, Lefty, Amazon, Mud Dogger, Slick. Phyllis is in the house tonight. Skeins girl, good to see you. I hope you're staying warm. Well, I know you are because the weather's been fantastic, right? Yep. Kent and Paula are accounted for. Says today's silver valuation achieved $79.43 a troy ounce. This may not be good news, for it shows the value of our fiat dollar and its debasement. You know what? I'm going to put this comment up here because I want to comment on this. I think this is important. The only thing I worry about with this is that I'm always questioning motive, Harry. And there have been many times in the past where the government artificially kept prices of silver and gold down. So we know this, right? We know this to be true. They've admitted this. So why are they not keeping it down now unless they want it to go up? And if they want it to go up, why do they want it to go up? But yes, $79
Triumph.
silver is significant. My friend Nidos is in the house. Hello, Squatchy. What's up, bud? Life with Mike and Jen. Jen, how are you? Indiana Mike, ahoy. Good to see you as well. Squatchy says, keep it small and simple in reference to the holidays. And of course, the citizen broadcaster herself is in the house. Carrie Davis says, small Christmas living slow now. Yep, I love that. Half Bubble Off Plum says we put more mulch out in the garden on Christmas. Nothing wrong with that either. Squatchy says we don't want anything from anyone but true friendship and a short message of cheer or well wishes and prayers. Yep, I love that. Tamber Smith is in here. Good to see you. Let's see here. Jen says the rubbish from presents fit in a grocery bag. It was wool socks, thermals, and beanies. The theme was warmth.
Warm.
That's actually a pretty good theme, huh? Dana Green, welcome in. Rhonda Benefield, welcome in. Merry Christmas to you. The Lazy Loper's in the house. Thank you for allowing Squatchy to join us tonight, Loper. Let's see here. Tamber said YouTube did something to the chat. I have no idea. On my side, it looks normal, but I'm not in YouTube, so that's probably why, right? Todd, not Todd. Good to see you. What's going on? Lisa Marie, hello, hello. Jonathan the gardener says, hello, happy holidays. Handmade gifts are my favorite gift, not something bought, especially homemade cookies. And boy, guys, did I get hooked up on cookies.
for the day.
How many dozen did you make?
I don't even know.
Like 13, 15?
There was a lot. There was a lot of cookies.
Oh, got it.
Tamara says that you did something to the chat, but she's on a phone, so she probably clicked on the wrong chat
Yeah, I don't
or
know.
the wrong live.
Yeah, tell us what you see. Maybe we can help.
Is it just part of it?
And
Can
Lisa-
you see us now?
Lisa said I was on the Microaggressions podcast at 3 p.m. today.
Microaggression.
Yeah, I've been on that podcast before, but it's been a while. I promise you I was not on there at 3 o'clock today.
Well, maybe they aired your their last one.
Maybe, but yep, I was not. Let's see here. Nito says, my youngest son has set up a voice chat on Christmas so I can enjoy watching the grandkids. I loved it. A lot cheaper than traveling. I love every bit of that. Yeah, it says maybe the government wants to keep the price down, but cannot, has run out of silver to sell at a cheap cost. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Camber says she's on an iPad and the chat is different. How is it different? Because again, on my side, it looks exactly the same.
Can you see us?
Yeah, she's talking about the chat, babe.
Oh, the chat.
Yeah,
Not the video?
not the video. I don't think the video. But yeah, to Yad's point, I don't really know why it's going, because again, I really question it because of what the government's done in the past. If they could artificially suppress it before, why are they not doing it now? And if they simply can't do it now, I think that's also kind of a bad sign. Yeah, so I'm not really sure. But what do you think of a $75 silver?
Yeah, Louise just told me about that today. I was like, wow, I remember it was like 13.
I thought you were going to say we should sell some.
No. Why?
Yeah, Tamara's video is good. Let's see here. Jonathan says, chat on YouTube looks great, and I can see the comments popping up on the screen as you're talking about them. Interesting. Yeah, Scott says looks good on his phone and his TV. Yeah, I can actually put the comments on the stage, right? Like that.
The stage.
Yeah, that's what they call it, right? But the problem is when I do that, like I've asked people and they said it's distracting. That's why I
That's so tiny.
Yeah, you can't even read it anyway, right? So anyway, well, guys, this week has not been super productive on the farm, and I feel bad about that. But we, with the holidays and little things have gone on, obviously the animals are all alive, right? Nobody died.
Yeah.
At least not that I'm aware of. So, that's good. But we have not done a lot of work. One little project I've been kind of playing with in my shop when it's really, really cold out, one of the things I love to do is I love to fabricate. I like to take a big old pile of metal and weld and make something. And so one of the things I've been working on out in the shop is I'm going to build a new chicken processor, because the way we process chickens today is basically 7 cones on a metal thing, and they're just kind of a pain in the butt. And we're going to make it a much more efficient. I'm going to have a big tub underneath it, not tub, a big tray that this is going to be gross, but helps funnel the blood to a bucket instead of a bucket under each one, and some of those kind of things, and maybe get them to hold in so they don't jump out after you cut their heads off, which happens sometimes.
Not cut them off.
What's that?
We don't cut them off.
Right, but I mean when you do the deed, right? Let's see here. Squatchy says paper silver, highly volatile, but holding it is way better. Yeah, I try not to hold anything on paper.
Paper silver.
Yeah, where you don't actually have it, you just have a stock of it. You don't actually have actual control, of it.
I didn't know that's what he meant.
Yeah. Anything you had on your list as far as what you did and do on the farm this week?
I got a little stomach bug, so I didn't get much done. We saw grandbaby last week, and I think I got a little stomach bug from her. So kind of put me down a little bit. And then Christmas, and get the house clean, get the food prep, get the kind of things picked up and where they need to be so that, but got Christmas done. Got to spend time with the kids, watched football.
Yep. Our boys came over and we watched at like 5 o'clock at night and yesterday on Christmas, and we watched the Broncos Chiefs game. So with the whole family, and well, B don't really watch it. She just goes, does her thing. But
yeah, well, I'm cooking. I'm in the kitchen. I'm here and there playing with the kids.
Yeah.
We had gingerbread making stuff and got to eat bunches of little candy, whatever that they use for that.
Yeah, Nito said Joe Salatin has a great setup in his processing shed. Yeah, I've been to a lot of them, Crunchy Mama Farms. I spent a lot of time when I go to places, I'm often at peeking in on how do they do things. Another one, the Anyone Can Farm Experience, Baker's Green Acres in Michigan. They've got quite the system up there that I've really enjoyed that a lot. And so I've been kind of collecting these thoughts for a while, but there's a couple things I want that theirs is, and I want mine to be mobile. So I want it on wheels. So basically I'm building a trailer and then building it on the trailer, kind of permanently. I want it to be able to hold, pluckers, all that kind of stuff, so that if we go to another homestead to do a big processing day, I can just hook the UTV up or the Jeep up or the truck up or whatever up to a trailer and just drive it and have everything that we need there. I think would be pretty cool, but we shall see.
Take that down the road.
Oh yeah. I wouldn't go very far, very fast. And I certainly wouldn't take it on the highway, but Broncos haven't won the last 15 games. About time. Yep. I agree.
They lost the last 15 games. Are you kidding me?
No, they don't.
I'm like, good grief.
No. They've actually won. This would be the third in the row against the Chiefs. But since 2015, I think is what he was talking about. They haven't won in Kansas City. Anyway, there's a game on Wall Street called ETF Silver Hypothecation. I don't play that game. Hey, Terminator said we had our family Christmas dinner and games last night. Pretty cool.
Do you guys do like board games or?
Tamara Smith says, Apple did something to my screw tube, apparently. I finally fixed it. Then she says, maybe. Then she says, except I only see me. Okay, so turn her TV on.
Oh, funny. I fixed it. Nope, maybe not.
Yeah, anyway. So we're not going to talk a lot tonight about the homestead. Also because I have skipped 2 good newses in a row. I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time to get to all of the craziness that's going on in the world today. But the camera says my TV is on. I thought maybe it was just the reflection in the, anyway.
You could see yourself in the reflection.
Yeah, I know a lot of us here on the live tonight, and at least in my world, we kind of started this journey as preppers and turned to homesteading. Now, there's a few in here that I know that started it the other way. Doesn't really matter, but it made me today. I was building the live, made me think a lot about what did we expect. Right, when you talk about the shit hitting the fan, or you talk about that, what do you expect? Because if what you expect is zombies to come, or the
I didn't expect zombies.
The Yellowstone caldera or whatever. I mean, those are all bad things, but I think it comes in a different form. I think it comes through inflation and immigration in a surveillance state. I think it comes from you'll own nothing and be happy. I think it comes from increased property taxes. I think it comes from more regulation. And I think it's this grip that gets a hold of us, and it just tightens and tightens and tightens and tightens and tightens. And then at some point, people get pissed, and you just don't know when that moment is. B came up to me today when we were coming up to the live and made some comment about, because this is what our founding fathers were doing, is talking about over taxation. I'm like, babe, our founding fathers, fought the revolution over 4% tax. Here we are at almost 60%, and still more concerned about the Kardashians. But anyway, real quick, Mario's in the house. Good to see you, Mario. Gratitude to Grace. Good to see you. Merry Christmas. Let me see. Hypothecation is selling the same silver more than once. Yeah, they do that with a lot of things, don't they? And Mo says, I more than doubled my investment on silver and nearly tripled on gold. That's been quite nice. You know what? Hopefully it lasts a long time. I hope for you it does. I hope for a lot of people in this audience it does, because I know a lot of people own those kinds of things. Terminator said we don't do board games. We do flip the ball in the cup competition and a homemade mini putt game and more. I love that. And Conserve friends, welcome in. So anyway, I thought we could talk a little bit tonight, and I asked B, to think about this a little bit too. Is what do you do about it? What do you do about this grip that just continues to tighten? Right? Because again, I don't think the shit hit the fan looks like zombies or a volcano or an asteroid. I mean, because the truth is, if an asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, that they say, happened at the Yucatan Peninsula, it happens again, there ain't no amount of prepping, right? There ain't, don't spend 2 seconds worrying about stuff like that. But I think it really does show up in all these other little things.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about that. I was thinking more like, I don't know, Red Dawn, people parachuting in, and that's going to be the end of the world, But no, where did I think that what we're going through now would kind of be part of it?
Yeah, well, I think the Red Dawn, right, or the other side of Red Dawn, which would be the complete totalitarian state, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the other side of Red
After
Dawn. So one of those two is fought right now, what we're experiencing now.
What we're doing now.
Right, and that's what ultimately ultimately will dictate the outcome of the technocratic totalitarian surveillance state, or ultimately, hopefully, maybe someday freedom, kind of winning. So again, but what do you do about it?
Right.
I mean, I can think of, there you go.
You see people out there who are like, don't pay your taxes. Come join us. Yeah. Here's the website. Don't pay your taxes.
Carrie Davis says, time for serious conversations. What is your line in the sand?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when I think
right.
For everybody, that's different, right? True, like I have some really good friends right here in the community who just want to be left alone. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to go to a courthouse. They don't want to do any of those things, right? They just want to be left alone. And are perfectly, fine, just want to be a hermit or whatever it is. And, and I respect all that. Although I think that there's a big challenge with that, because you do that long enough, pretty soon there's no one left.
Right.
And you're truly kind of, standing alone. But either way, I think we have to respect, everybody's view on that. But as I was thinking tonight about what we do about it, I think that there's really 7 things we need to be doing. And I think we could talk about all 7 of these, but I think you really need to be doing them. And if you're not doing them, then you're almost just saying, what, then what's to be is what's going to be. And, we have no, saying it, we have no pushing it, we have no nothing. And if that's the case, then that technocratic, surveillance, you'll own nothing, be happy world is certainly going to win. And that would be a very sad day. Conserve Friend says, just the failure of the utilities would wipe out most. At the, Conserve Friends, just the one emergency, one hospital visit, one transmission blown in a car, one of any of those things is going to wipe out 60% of the population, right? 60% of the populations could not withstand the economic impact of a transmission being blown.
Yeah, their car breaking down.
Right?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. Most has stopped feeding our demise and disconnect as much as possible. Yep, that certainly made my list, although I use different words, but that's absolutely correct. And hey, Permatopia Farms in the house. Good to see you. So the first thing I had on my list that I would put this probably at the top of the list would be find your allies, right? We talk about community all the time, but we're so blessed here in this community. We have a beautiful young lady who spends her time at every single commissioner's meetings, at all those public meetings, videotaping them, trying to hold them accountable. And, we always talk about doing your part plus some, and she definitely does that. But find your allies. And, you might ask, well, how do I, go find my allies? Well, the truth is, if you do the other 6 things I'm going to talk about tonight, you'll find plenty of allies, because you'll meet all of those people who are doing those things. Right. So let's see here. Nito says, I believe that a more likely scenario is the economy is going to get so expensive that millions of people will be homeless and starving, roaming, turning to taking from others. Yeah, well, I would argue that the government doesn't manage anything well, And so if people get to where they're starving, they won't manage that well, and there will certainly be pain. But again, I think we're all talking the same story. We're talking about a different timeline in the story, right? When you look
Yeah.
at that long timeline from the technocratic state or Red Dawn is being talked about to all of the stages that lead up to it,
Yeah.
That kind of get there. But so I knew I had to find allies first. I thought it, because I think it's really important. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because, again, I think if you do the other 6 things, what you'll figure out is that you'll find them all there. You'll find all of those allies in those places that you would be. Jen says, if it's to be, it's up to me. If someone's got to take a stand, our inaction is what got us where we're at. Right? I mean, this has been going on for a long, long time. And, Generation X, which is me, didn't do enough. Right? And the millennials didn't do enough. And here we are, Generation Betas, right? I think they'll be born. No, they'll start being born next year. So we're on Generation Alphas. Betas start in 2026, if I remember correct. If I'm wrong, someone correct me, but I think that's correct. So from Generation X to Generation Alpha, we haven't really, kind of done a whole lot. Next thing on my list was get educated. That is a huge thing, right?
So there's a lot to get educated.
There's a lot to get educated on about, which is, when you talk about growing your own food, that's a component of it. But so is learning your local laws, right? So is understanding how your tax bill is formulated.
Yeah.
Going through it. Being involved can be something just so simple as, hey, I want my property card, and you go through it to make sure that it's accurate. Because I'm going to tell you, there's all kinds of things that aren't accurate most of the time when people go find them. I'll give you some examples. The walls in the garage are 8 feet tall. The county has them at 10. And
it's crazy. Like why does the county care if your walls are 10 feet tall or 8 feet tall?
Because they're all taxed differently. If they're 10 feet tall, they're taxed more than if they were 8 feet tall. Right? So, but you got to get educated on those things. Educate on how to produce your own power, right? Educate on how to deal with your own sewer, right? And there's so many things to go get educated about. And, we have to make an effort to do these things every single day. So every day, say, I'm going to educate myself on something. Guys, it's super easy. I do it all the time. Simply look up an ordinance. Just read one, and something that you're interested in. Try to understand how it works, right? Every day.
Try to watch a YouTube video on how to replace the string inside the weed eater.
Watch a YouTube video on how to replace the string inside a weed eater, or how to put up a fence, or how to hang a gate, or, whatever that is. That's hey, Jane Marie, welcome in, by the way. I don't think I welcomed you. Let's see here. Mo says, the means of finding your allies these days is supplying your enemies with a list of who is connected to who. Depends on how you find them, though. Right, Mo? I mean, you can't just go and hide behind the scenes. You're bound. You will never succeed that way, right? Because then by the time there's just be nothing left. So what is a worth enough risk, right? What's out there that you're going to take a big enough risk on, knowing that eventually you can't just do it all by yourself? Toby Farm says, not to mention AI making tough to know what is real and not real. Yeah, discernment is certainly valuable today, isn't it? Yep. Instigator welcome in says, what will happen? It's in the history books with slight tweaks. The hubris of it can't happen here is the weakest brick in the wall. Yeah, I think that's the truth. Everybody. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I was getting text messages on my phone. Did you read that? Anyway, crazy. So I would get educated. Number 3, I would say, is then now that we're educated, go get involved locally. Because again, if you go get involved, you're going to meet all kinds of allies, because you're going to meet people who are interested in the same things you're interested in. If you go to a county commissioners meeting and you say your piece and you do that, people, I promise you, will walk up to you. Ask me how I know, right? And you'll build your allies that way. I think, a lot of people say we have to completely exit the system. And although I get that, the problem is if you do that, the grip, you're going to have you're not going to be able to combat the grip at all. It's just going to get tighter and 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 tighter, right? If there's a zero pushback, You know, does that make sense to you when I say that?
The pushback on
That if you don't go, if we as a people don't go get involved at the local level and start pushing back, the grip is going to get so tight you'll never be able to push back. I mean, there are things going on all over the world today. Little kids who are in China, I have this in the live tonight, in China are standing in line with a QR code on their chest so that when they get the vaccine, they can scan that and make sure their social credit score, is appropriate, that they get their extra 10 social credit score points, for taking, the vaccine. In Great Britain, England, Australia, we'll talk about this tonight too, outlawed all social media for anybody under the age of 16.
Yeah.
The new digital currency of England, right? It's here. They're implementing it, right? We've talked about all of these things, Let's see here. Mo says, today most means are tracked and logged. The French underground was successful. We are far, far from that these days. We are far, far from that these days. Yep. Terminator said, I'm educating myself in the rules and regulations for me to be able to start building. To me, I need to be able to understand and to do it right without getting fined and billed by the codes. Yep. Citizen Broadcaster said, our commissioners do not want us paying attention. No, it's a lot easier if we're not paying attention.
Well, right.
But, and Citizen Broadcaster can speak a lot to this. Going in there and standing up and having a voice does make a difference. You do get them backpedaling. You do get them going, maybe I should consider this, right?
Well, and making the videos and putting them out there and letting other people see what's going on at their convenience, I think has helped some too, because that's the thing. When the meetings are inconvenient for people to come, they won't come. And then it's like, well, that, I just missed it. Well, if it's available for them to watch at their convenience, then they watch them. And then they're like, hey, what did they just say about that? And then they go, wait, I don't agree with that. And then they have the opportunity to make it their mission to either do something about it. Yeah.
They, our commissioner meetings are 9 a.m. Monday mornings, right? Which everyone who pays taxes are out working at that time. Scott says there's no more hiding. Everything is seen and heard, says Scott. Tag says, Tag, a big part because of you, we are pushing back up in Idaho because of the shenanigans going on. Good. I had a conversation with my sister tonight, and she was talking about, what does it matter?
What, to have a conversation?
What does it matter to push all back? Soon enough, we'll be dead. No one's going to remember us anyway. So what's the point?
I thought we were supposed to leave it better for the people behind us.
Yeah, and that was actually kind of my point, is what impact can I make, and what can I do with the time that I was here? Because I do agree we're going to die and be forgotten,
Yeah, but we're leaving it to our kids.
Right. Julia Withers, welcome in. How are you? Let's see here. Half Bubble Off Plum says, that's correct. Our commissioner meetings are always at 3 p.m. when everyone's at work. Terminator said, I will stay and fight. I will stand and fight to stay in my cabin until my home is built, no matter how long it takes. Yeah, and you've got an uphill battle. Canada, I read stuff about them all the time, and it looks like that it's just out of control. What's so crazy about it is all the population is in these couple little places. The rest of Canada is pretty pro-freedom, conservative and all this, but the cities just so overwhelm them from a numbers perspective. They don't really get, represented. Yeah. Give others the confidence and also want to push back. That's right. I agree with that. Hippocrates says, imagine if there was one or more small local businesses that would close specifically so their staff could attend a city council or council meeting. Oh, I would love to see that. Problem with that is this is the way the system is, right? With the way our taxes are, the prices on food, and guys, I don't care what anybody says. They can talk about how inflation's 2.7% all they want, right? Gold's doubled in 5 years, gold's doubled in 2 years. There's just no way. But anyway, if you give it to them off, if you pay them, they would go, right? But that's a hard strain on the company. If you give it to them off paid free, then they are having a hard time already making the bills, and they probably need the hours more than they need to go spend time with their commissioners. Yeah. Oh, Would Be Cool says, good thing our founding fathers didn't feel that way. Yeah, super, super, super well said. Yeah. Julie Withers said, has anyone experienced a doubling or tripling of their electric bills in the past month? Mine tripled.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we're off grid, so we didn't. But I have had lots of people who have complained around me or to me or emailed me or whatever it is, talking about how their energy costs have gone up significantly. And I can tell you guys, I've been saying this for years and years. Energy is where it's at. I would put energy above when the need for energy above the need for water, food, or any of them, because with it, you're not doing it with your back, or as much of it with your back. And you have the greatest well in the world. If you can't produce energy, you're not getting it out of the hole. And if you are, you're doing it with your back. And that's not in existence, I don't think, at least in my opinion. Nurse Wang, welcome in. Nurse Wang says energy costs going up due to AI centers.
They're going up everywhere.
They're going up literally everywhere. And I'll tell you this too, politicians, they absolutely listen to action. If you're there and you're loud, they'll listen to you. Now you may not, get what you're told. You may not, whatever, get what you're asked for or whatever. You all right?
Yeah, I just had to sneeze.
But they will perk up, and I know Citizen Broadcaster, I know is in here. I know, Indiana Mike who's in here. A lot of them, that people who are in here in this live night, can testify that when you show up with 200 or 250 people in like a county like mine, you absolutely get people's attention. Now, that's probably not true for someone who lives in a city of 1 million, but where we live, it absolutely does. Julia says, I'm told to support the data centers all over the country. Permatope said, we are trying to fight building a data center about an hour from us in Arkansas. Yeah, Tamara Smith said they're going in everywhere. Yeah, they are. And then you're going to get these rolling, brownouts of electricity, and you're going to be the one left holding the bag, because I promise you the AI data centers are not going to be the ones without. You will be the one without. I've often said, they'll cut veteran, benefits, long before they'll cut welfare, right? Because of who they're trying to, keep happy. Mo Engineer says the Palisades file was started by a lone arsonist. They knew who was there, who he called, and the song he listened to. It's hard to hide or even have an independent thought these days. Boy, ain't that true. Yeah, it is true. You might surprise you, Mo, but I promise you, I spend a lot of time rereading my post before I hit send, or post to some degree. I don't know if you guys all know this, but I put a post out on a local. So we have a local Facebook page right here where I live that's for the whole, county. Anyway, I put a post out every single day that talks about some form of statism or tyranny or something every single day. And so, but I read those twice, to make sure that I'm not saying something that I don't 100% agree with, or, something that I feel would.
Well, good grief. You say one, spell one word wrong, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, you spelled one word wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I've been blasted for spelling your with wrong your a couple times, but the other thing I would tell you guys, number 4 would be to play the long game, right? That this all didn't happen overnight. You're not going to go into your commissioners meetings tomorrow and make it just an instant big change. You're not going to go plant your first tomato seeds and grow a harvest. You're just not. You're not going to get your first chickens and just be 100% successful. You got to kind of put, all of those, pieces into place, which again goes all the way back to number 2, which is to get educated, right? Because you get better and better. We become better gardeners every year. We become, B becomes better at, her animals every single year. I become a better carpenter every year, all of those things. And I become better at holding my local officials accountable every single year, because again, we get educated. Yeah, Pete says, those are some awesome posts, Tag. Yeah, I like doing them. It's like the first thing I do every single day. I get up and I put a post out that just talks about, whatever happens to be on my brain, from the education system to whatever, some form of statism. And let's see here. Dana Green says, sorry, I missed a couple of them. We'll start right there. What is the benefit of the data centers to us? Does anyone know? Yeah, you'll have AI, which AI will make it to where you don't really have to work, and you can get a guaranteed basic income. And you never have to worry. It will never be used for bad, things. It's only there to benefit you, right? The data says there's one going up in southern Tyler, Texas. And Tamara says one close to Jewett, Texas too. Yeah. My county, they've talked about things like data centers and stuff, but my county don't have a ton of water. So as far as municipal water, yeah, we don't have huge lakes. We have lakes. We don't have gigantic ones and some of those kind of things. Instigator said my generator is running to top off the batteries, rated 6,500 running watts. Lucky to get 2K. About to bite the bullet, dump the gas and propane, and go to a diesel. Buy once, cry once. Yeah, we use big propane generators for ours, but I would love to have a diesel generator. Would absolutely love to. So when I talk about playing the long game, what I'm really talking about is you never know what seed you plant today that grows later. I'm always talking to like our commissioners about, and I'll give you, this is just an example that just happened. I was talking to one of them and I told him, I said, hey, you want to change the economic, outlook for our county. Let's make Jackson County famous. Let's make it, right? Let's make it. That's how you do it. That's how economic growth happens, is what would draw someone to want to live here. And I told him, I said, how about we grow the healthiest food in America? How about we set our goals in this agricultural county to grow the healthiest food in America?
That'd be awesome.
Right? Oh, how about this? Let's set out to say we have the absolute best education system in the United States of America. Let's teach our kids to be critical thinkers and self-thinkers. Let's teach them how to learn instead of just how to memorize.
That'd be awesome.
Right? Let's go do something that's in front of the trend instead of just being behind the trend. Because these old counties, like where I live, all they want to do is be reactive to what was relevant 20 years ago. And in the meantime, the whole world has changed and their solutions are no longer relevant. And they don't even understand why they're wrong. It's because they're using erroneous information to try to make a decision when they're so far removed from the problem, they'd never get to the decision anyway. And without ranting, right? Nito says homesteading is like putting a puzzle together, one system at a time, put in place and make efficient, rinse and repeat. 100%. 100%. Let's see here. Scotchy says data centers equals their God in trying to be all-knowing for everyone's info coming and going. The stuff they're doing in China today is terrifying. And it's not just China. It is now spread. Australia's probably in place number 2, and Britain's probably in place number 3. India would be right up there too, right? But they're all headed that way. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but what happens in Europe ends up in America eventually. We're usually behind that, but it certainly ends up here. So anyway, we talked about playing the long game. The other thing was don't take stupid risks. This is an important one. You okay?
Yeah.
You got a nose tickle?
Yeah.
Don't take stupid risks. And what I mean by don't take stupid risks is I'm going to tell you guys a story about somebody you guys know. And I'm not going to mention his name because I don't know that he wants people to know. I actually did a video on it, so maybe it would be okay. I'll just tell you because he did a video on it, so it wouldn't be a secret. Yeah, it was published. So you guys know Jim Gale from the Freedom Farm Academies and from Galt's Landing in St. Cloud, Florida. I've got down there. I've spoke at his events down there before. He's been up here, met our community here. Well, he has been fighting them down there in Florida for a long, long time and decided that he just wasn't going to pay his taxes anymore and to hell with it. Well, that's fine. You can do that. Except here now you are 8 years later and they're coming to take his farm.
How do they take it?
They'll just like they just do here. People don't pay their taxes. What happens? Our sheriff auctions their stuff off from the courthouse lawn.
Oh, yeah, they sure did.
Yeah. So
they auctioned it off. They auctioned off a man's house.
Yes. So, you can take this, stand and say, I'm not going to do it anymore. That's fine. But you have to understand the risk that you're taking. And I don't think those risks are worth it because of one main reason. It takes you out of the fight. So this is why I pay my taxes. This is why I have a driver's license and a license plate on my car, because those fights they're not significant enough fights worthy of taking me to spend my time in jail. Or not just taking my fight, put me in jail, and then what's left with you guys?
It takes you out of the fight.
Right. And then you guys are left to,
deal with it.
To deal with it. And, so I don't like that either. So I think you have to understand what risk you're taking. And this was kind of to Mo's point earlier a little bit. What risk are you willing to take and yet still be in the fight? And I think that's kind of a hard balancing act a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Hippocrates says, over time, less cost. Consider with decent maintenance, 20,000 estimated running hours, gas, 2,000 at most. Same for my solar, pay up front and maintain. They're talking about diesel generators.
Yeah.
I'd still love to have one. What do you think about taking stupid risks? Can you think of any?
No. No.
Yeah.
There's,
I think it's a case of just like with our property taxes. I'm fighting them as hard as I can fight them. That doesn't mean it does not mean I'm not going to pay my property taxes. Right? I'm still going to pay them until I can find a way to beat it. Because
until it's legally okay to not pay
Right.
them.
right now, I will tell you, if we could get 10 million people to do it at one time, okay. Babe, they're not going to put 10 million people in jail.
No.
They're not. I
What,
mean,
you think that they're going to start the A's? No.
start with the A's. What do you mean?
The last name, the A's. They, by the time they get down to the Z's, if you're a Z, you're pretty good.
No, I think
they're not going to start at the A's.
I think if you had enough people stand up at one time, we'd find another way.
That,
But it would take a whole bunch.
yeah, that's what those people are on the internet are trying to do, is trying to get people like, come on, everybody, this way. The Kool-Aid.
Mo says if you become famous, you also become infamous. The nail that sticks out gets hammered. As for great food, your state is owned by Monsanto. They will only tolerate insignificant rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually don't agree with you. But if you had a whole county doing it, I think if you had a county committed to growing the healthiest food in America, you were way safer than just me sitting here bitching about it on YouTube. You know, I don't know. Let's see. Just like government holding college students accountable for the loans they signed up for by garnishing wages. Except let me offer a counter to this, Nitos. Okay, did you know that the interest rates on a lot of those student loans are predatory? And so you get a young, dumb kid, I was one once, that goes to sign up for a $75,000 student loan because they told me that my studies in social sciences would yield me $100,000 a year job when I got out. And they sold it to me, and then they sold me this loan at 7% interest, where my minimum interest payment on it's $1,000 a month. And then my job only pays $60,000 a year, and now I'm stuck. So I agree with you in principle that if they sign up for loans, they got to be accountable to the loan, no different than if we have to hold our government accountable on that. But we also have to begin to understand that a lot of these systems are predatory. And because they're predatory, not every homeless person you see on the corner with a sign holding up is lazy.
Right.
Right? There's more to it than that. And what role did the system play in those students getting those student loans and being in the position they're in? I'm not excusing it, but at the end of the day, they're still stupid kids. Right? I mean, what did you know at 17? I was an idiot, right? If you look back on it, or 18 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so I think that needs to be taken into account. Can everyone put a cemetery on their property for tax exemption? I don't think so. And I think even if, in the way that I have read that is, and I have not done a ton of study on this, Squatchy, but the way that I've read that is you can tax exempt that particular spot where the cemetery is, not the entire land, as I understand it. Instigator says woods have much less tax rate than homeland or row crop land. They don't have to know the forest land with a pond can be more productive than row crop, at least for the owner. I agree. What else did we got? And then to Mo's point just a little bit earlier, I call it remove the fronts, right? So another thing that we need to be doing right now is really insulating ourselves from the system. And what is it that they can take from us? We've talked tonight in the live about electricity rates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going up. We know property tax rates are going up. We know healthcare, right? The cost the average American spends on healthcare today has gone up, 300% in 5 years. I mean, it's a lot. And a bunch of these rates with Obamacare are fixing to go up. And they're not fixing to go up because the cost is going up. They're fixing to go up because the subsidies are going away, which means someone who was paying $200 for Obamacare, it meant the federal government was subsidizing the other $800. Now they're not going to do it, which means now they're going to be paying $1,000. Make sense?
Yeah.
Because again, it won't be subsidized.
So the insurance company is still going to get the same amount of money. It's just not going to all come from the government. It's going to come from the insured.
The insured. Well, what people are going to do is just not going to carry it.
They're not going to carry insurance.
You can't make $24,000 a year and have $1,000 insurance pay.
Yeah.
If you make $24,000 a year, that's $2,000 a month, $2,000 a month, and you're spending $1,000 on
Yeah, health
right?
insurance.
Health insurance, and then never
Yeah,
going to happen.
never going to happen.
Especially with your average rent price today is $2,000 and $3,000 a month.
Right. Which
So,
is insane.
Yeah, Mike says, or Jen says, the cemetery here is only 1 acre, not the house or any other portion of the property. That's what I thought. Gratitude for Grace says the same government that allows student loans to 18-year-olds won't allow banks to give the same person a mortgage secured by property because they don't have the ability to pay back the mortgage. Right.
Oh my gosh. Right.
Yeah.
Make that make sense.
Right. And I think what's crazy is that the same government that allows, and I'll say it another way, the same government that allows student loans to 18-year-olds won't allow banks to give the same person a small business loan to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And it's crazy too. Like if they default on the loan of the student loan, it's not like the government can take the knowledge back, but if they default on the house loan, they can take the house back.
Yeah. Crazy, huh? Well, but something you have to understand about student loans are one of the only loans out there that you can't file bankruptcy on.
Right.
So because you can't file bankruptcy on it, it follows you.
Yeah.
And that's super secure. You get to rape and pillage someone's earning potential for their entire life.
Yeah.
And they can never get rid of it. Right. Northern Girl Hobbies, good evening to you. Indiana Mike says, the system allows the predators to exist. College is encouraged and the predators take advantage. It's almost like the system is made up of predators. Yeah, and then financed by us, the taxpayer, right? That's where that money comes from, right? Yeah, Carrie Davis said, or 16-year-olds voting. Right. Yeah, I don't know. This probably wouldn't be, not everybody would like this, but I don't think you should be able to vote if you don't contribute, or haven't contributed. Like I understand once you've retired, right, then you should continue to
be
vote.
Allowed to.
Right, because you've contributed in that. But
a 16-year-old no? 18-year-old no?
I think that it takes you a while to get a little bit smart. And I also think that voting when you have something to lose is very different than voting when you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Right? I mean,
yeah. We saw that with our kids.
Yeah. You see here. What Northern Girl say? She said, where else are you streaming to? Just Facebook and YouTube.
Did you not get X figured out?
No. And the thing is, X was kind of sucked anyway. I mean, I would stream to X every single day. Nobody would watch over there. So,
yeah. Yeah, somebody got some fraud on us and we had to change our card around. And that's what happened.
Is that what it was?
We have an update. You haven't updated the new card.
I don't really want to pay for X anymore. This is part of the reason Charlie Cook trolled the college as a scam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. See, Jen says, sounds like an underground city like, I'm going to totally Durinkuyu, Petra, or you want to try?
No.
You sure?
Yep.
Or Vito? If they send the drones over, they can't really see anything. Instigator says they want you broke. Fiscally, physically, emotionally, way easier to control. I agree. Student loans and child support never go away. Boy, there's a whole bunch in that too. Right?
Child support.
Yeah. I mean, if this is going to sound totally harsh, but why is it a woman can walk away from a child, but a man can't?
Yeah, I understand.
I mean, I don't think either should be able to walk away from it, just to be clear. But
yeah, I understand.
You don't even want to touch that one, do you?
No. There are all kinds of messed up rules out there for offspring.
Northern Girl says, I can only see the people on YouTube. Okay, so YouTube made a change in Northern Girl Hobbies about a month ago to where now my lives and many people's lives, I would presume, show two different lives, one for TV and one for phone. And so like if you're on the TV and you click the one for phone, you're only going to see a condensed picture. So if you back out and go back to my live and pick the right one,
that has something to do with the people on YouTube? Because she says she can only see the people on YouTube. She can't see the people on Facebook.
Are you talking as far as comments go?
On X.
On comments? X, I don't have, I'm not broadcasting.
I'm just saying that she can't see the other people. She can only see the people on YouTube.
And Northern Girls Hobby says, yes, I can't even understand how people leave their children. I can't either. Okay, laugh out loud. Sorry, guys. Underground communities of the ancient times in other countries. Thank you. What was so hard about that, Jen?
English.
Let me see here. I'm on the laptop and I can see you talking to other people. I'm talking to B.
People that are not on. So other than
Got it. What you're saying is you're not getting all of the comments in the chat. Is that what you took?
That's what I'm understanding. She
Okay.
can't see, fill in the blank. Like
Yeah. So if you go to the
like
top of
Mo.
the chat, there's usually a box up there that'll talk about top comments or all comments. That might help you. Maybe if that's what we're suffering from, which is, of course, really, really, really hard to tell. Okay, so we're talking about removing fronts, right? Food, produce as much food you can, power, find your own way through energy, right? And income. That's a big one.
What about income? Don't have it?
Okay, wait a second. What's this? No, but isn't Mike and Jen a moderator on your channel?
I'm on a laptop. I can see you talking to other people.
I just don't understand. Northern Girl Hobbies. Yes, Mike and Jen, I believe, are moderators. So I don't understand. Help me understand.
I can only see half of B's shoulder. Like this.
All right.
Is better.
Yep. So I can actually see from your comment, Kings, it says you're watching on a cell phone. Is that true? Because just like Northern Girl Hobbies says that they're watching on a cell phone. King says, I am on a smartphone. Okay, so did you click when you went at Kings, when you went into the live? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so if you go into the live, did you click the cell phone button? That's so weird. See, Northern Girl Hobby says, I don't see Mike and Jen in the chat. Are they on Facebook? Okay, so you're coming in from Facebook is what you're saying. Yeah, so I don't think the comments move over to Facebook.
Because I thought it would say Facebook on her thing.
I wonder if I could, oops.
It says, I thought that meant she was on YouTube.
Yeah, you're the symbol. That's what that means. The symbol, Northern Girl Hobbies, tells me you're coming from YouTube. Let's see here. So I just went on my regular YouTube. Well, King, there, like I said, they made this change where there's now 2 lives. One for a TV, one for a smartphone. And if you don't click the right one, it distorts your picture.
Oh.
Right. And I wonder if I did this, if that changes anything. See, baby, see right here, this is what they would see if they were on the phone. See how they only see part of us? If we're on the wrong one, right?
How did you do that?
You like that? To me, it's just confusing.
I thought that was 2 different.
Yeah, I got it.
Vertical.
Yeah, and Squatchy says you're not going to see the comments on another platform. Yeah, so I see everybody's comments because I'm actually in what's called StreamYard, which is how I broadcast. Yeah, see, King says, I see you, but only part of B. Yeah, see right there. Wave.
Yeah.
But they see the comments. Yeah. So weird. So weird. We were talking about income real quick. My friend Mo, who's in this live tonight, talks about this all the time, how if you quit feeding the system, we need to figure out a way to stop feeding the system that's betraying us. And that and that's hard to do because you go work so that you can earn money so you can escape all of this. But yet in the meantime, you're paying taxes, which in turn makes them stronger.
I don't know if this helps, but I watched this guy on, I don't know if I don't know where he came from. It might've been, YouTube. His video came over Facebook, I think. And it was like called Cancel Ian something. And there was this guy that came out with, who went and did a bunch of research on who owns what corporations. And so like the shampoo industry and the cold medicine and the vitamins and the dog food and the tampons and all of these products that you use, who owns all of them. And so you think like, oh, I'm going to go buy shampoo. And you're like, oh, I'm not going to buy this one because I know that that's a bad company or a, big mega corporation. So I'm going to buy this one. This one looks more natural and all this, good stuff for you. And then you realize that that's also the same company that owns all of these other ones. So just having information on like where you could put your money. So like if I want to put my money in somebody that's not a big mega corporation, I started buying Mane and Tail shampoo. Is a family owned company, and they've got like, Walmart has one kind of it. There's not 10 different varieties. So I don't know, if you get it somewhere else, but if you're buying a product, why don't you try buying a product that is by a family owned, people, instead of just the same corporations that we're trying to not feed. Let's try to put our money where back the people that we are trying to help, and take away the money that from the people that we are not trying to help.
Yeah, I think ultimately the way Mo talks about it's right. That if we can just have no need for income at all anymore, that would be great.
Right,
but that's just that's not a realistic option for most people.
Right.
A few could get there, but most, that's never going to happen. So there's the other ways you deal with the income thing, right? Pay attention to front side money and backside money, right? Make sure you're managing the backside money, probably to a greater degree than you're managing the front side money. If you can save on your expenses and not be dependent upon things and not have those bills to begin with,
well, yeah,
keep your taxes low, which is again why you go get educated and understand how you can build. Right. I think all of those things will help. Let's see here. I don't even know where I'm at. Right there. We'll just start right there. Postmodern Soapbox says, Mom, by the way, welcome in, says, Mom used to get Mane and Tail when I was a teenager. I was amazed at how nice it made my hair feel. There we go. Cindy says, I can see you both fully now. King, her name is Cindy, by the way.
Okay.
So you know. Yeah. Carrie Davis says, buy direct from the source. 100%.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah, any of that we can do, I think that's smart. Paying cash when you can pay in cash.
Yeah.
I think just wage the battle the best you can from whatever place that you're at, and don't be upset at the place you're at, because the place you're at's where you're at. Just work from there, right? Okay, let me see here. Yeah, Northern Girl says, I got out of YouTube, refreshed. There are 2 streams, one vertical and one horizontal. Yep. And the horizontal screen is the one that I'm actually talking on, although I could click on the vertical. It makes it where me and B got to get like that, Instigator says, save on soap and shampoo, don't sweat. That won't work on my farm.
No, we got to sweat. We got to get all them chemtrails out of our bodies. Keep up the sweating. More the merrier.
Yeah. That ain't going to happen. And I'm going to tell you, all natural soaps and all of that stuff, they don't, it ain't the same, right?
Sometimes it don't get the stink off.
Gratitude to Grace says, B, my husband has the same water bottle.
This one?
The wide mouth? Yeah. Let's see here. Postmodern Soapbox says, I make some solid bar shampoos and conditioners now because I get weird sensitivities.
I haven't made shampoo and conditioner yet. That is something that I would love to do. I mean, I have used my bar soap as shampoo, but like I didn't have a shampoo recipe.
Yeah, Jen says, do not choose the one with the cell phone icon.
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see here. Mo says, one needs to minimize how much they make and how much they spend. This is right out of Atlas Shrugged. It is going on strike. Stop feeding the enemy.
Yeah.
Yes. And I do agree that ultimately that's it. But I also think that it is hard to get there. Right? I mean, how do you tell someone to minimize how much they make and how much they spend when every penny they got is going to staying alive? Right? That they're paycheck to paycheck. Right? Which mows 75% of the population. Right? So, I mean, obviously there's things that can be done, right?
Yeah.
Cindy says, tallow soap is awesome. Yep. And easy to make. Yeah. B makes lots of tallow soap. That's what we use 100% of the time. That's tallow soap, right?
Yeah.
That we use mostly. Yeah. That's what I thought. Cindy says, if you're a DIYer. Yeah. It's pretty similar. We should have a soap making day. Yeah. We've done some of that. You've had soap making days in the past, right?
Okay. Yeah.
We could absolutely do that. And now with the community center, much bigger stove, much bigger capacity.
I don't use the stove
to
make soap.
Don't you melt the tallow down?
No, because the lye
Does that for
heats
you?
up.
Oh, I don't make soap, so
I don't do that on the stove.
okay. We still got more space down there,
Yeah, but
right?
and eventually I'll have all my stuff down there and I'll be able to do that. But right now I'm like back and forth because it's like, oh, I got to go get the whatever, and that's at the house, and then
Instigator wants to know if the cleanup is hard after a soap making day.
one day it really was a big deal. We had the glycerin soap like expand out of the cooker, and it like oozed down the cabinet and down the front of the cabinet, and that did not like stain the cabinet. It was not fun.
Yeah, Cindy says, yes, pay yourself and invest in human community. Okay, so we talked about removing the fronts. Number 7, the last thing that I had was do one of these every single day. Right? Which what that just simply means is set a goal.
To get new allies every day? Or?
No, well, to do one of them every day. Right? That every day say, I'm doing something that moves me to freedom. And not just me, but my community, the people around me, my county that I live in. I'm going to do something. And some days that's going to be, I'm going to find my allies. And some days that's going to be, I'm going to work on getting educated. Some days that means we're going to go get involved. Some day that means we're going to work on planning, better planning the long game. Sometimes that means we're going to focus in on what risks we are taking. Sometimes that means we're going to focus in on the fronts. But either way, what we're going to do is we're going to do something every single day. Every single day. Make it part of your chore list. Make it part of your every single day. And guys, sometimes, like for me, that's listening to a podcast as I'm going down the road on jury nullification. Right, or whatever, that get yourself educated, and don't waste your time driving down the road, and I hate to say this, listening to Fox News. Take that time to educate yourself on how mill levies are calculated or figured. Right, like use that time for those kinds of things. Mo says if a person is just surviving, then the government has nothing more to loot from that person. Well, I totally disagree, Mo.
Their energy.
They're looting their most valuable asset they have. They're looting the very best years of their life. Right? They're taking from them meaning of life. Gratitude to Grace says, barter, trade, share. I love the way the Amish circulate the same dollar 7 times before it gets taxes. Yep. We would love to see that for all. Yeah, we would love to see that for all. And again, that's a big part about community, right? About finding your allies. Because if you could figure out a way to get that economy running, it actually makes every one of your dollars more valuable. So you actually start gaining, at least.
Wouldn't that be nice? Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're talking about a monumental task.
Yeah.
And you got to get a whole bunch of people on the same page and a whole bunch of people agreeing. And that is really, 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 really hard to do. Well,
isn't that the truth?
Yeah. I mean, shit, people are programmed, right?
Yeah.
I've got great friends who, I admire who've been, let's say off-grid living for 10 years or whatever it is, but there's still that section of 50 years of programming or 30 years of programming in them that it's hard to get out of,
Yeah.
It's what you've known your entire life. Jen wants to know if the chicken started laying again after the food switch.
We got 5 eggs today.
Mm-hmm.
About every other day we're getting between 5. We're like 5 and then 3 and then 5 and then 3. So we're getting some, which is better than none.
Yeah, nowhere near like what we were in the spring and the summer. Mo says wrong tense. They already took their meaning of life. Yeah. So how do you take it back, Mo? Because you can't. I don't think we can just say, okay,
they're not dead.
Right.
They're alive.
You're not writing that off.
Right.
Right. And unfortunately, the only way to get to a freer and freer life is you have to have some form of resource. Right. I mean,
they don't know. They don't understand what they're.
What I'm saying is to be able to go try to live free. Let's pick on solar for an example. Right. How many times people have said it must be nice to have free energy. It's not free. It's prepaid. But I had to have resources to go get that prepaid. There's a reason I don't have an electric bill today.
Right.
I had to have resources to go do that. And so without living a life, nothing better than medieval, how do you go do that without some form of income? And then
Yeah.
rent your whole life and
Yeah. Well, because we saved and saved
Correct.
and saved and saved and saved and
Couch
saved and
surf.
then spent it.
Right.
Save and save and save and save
Right.
and save and then spend it.
Scott says ours have been laying more since we went back to the bulk feed. Apparently ours are as well.
Yeah.
Not really. Did the eggs I had today, did they come from the chickens?
Yeah.
Cool.
Those were.
B made me 2 egg sandwiches for breakfast today. So that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
So you have any comments on all that, on what we talked about? But what should we be doing right now?
Yeah, there's a lot of them, and I agree with.
You want my notes?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he has this whole notebook of like lined paper, right? This is a notebook, and he finds the one page that does not have lines, and he used it to write his notes on.
What's wrong with that?
It's just I think that's just the divider of the notebook.
It
and
was
you're
the
like,
next
I'm going to
page.
use that as a page.
Hey, Grateful Hearts Ranch, welcome in. Jen says, I've been looking deeper into fodder crops our ancestors used.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think getting it back, I think chasing freedom is super hard. And I think we have a huge uphill battle in front of us.
Right. Well, the convenient thing was so convenient that we just latched onto it and ran.
Yeah. Well, when we talk about that battle to the surveillance state or Red Dawn or Liberty or whatever it is, a lot of that will be waged in the war of convenience.
Oh, absolutely.
AI will be sold to us out of convenience. Digital ID will be sold to us out of convenience. Central bank digital currencies will be sold to us out of convenience. I mean, Trump just said that Bitcoin's going to pay off the debt, right? I mean, so how do you get a populace to run from convenience? How do you get people to start doing it harder?
Right, because they're like, I would love to do it harder.
Right.
Yeah. I have so much time on my hands. I would really love to go cut wood for my own heat. Oh, wait a minute. Right after I haul my own water. No, that does not sound like fun.
You do that.
I do.
Yeah. You don't haul your own water, but Mo said, do you think the people of today using all means possible that something like an underground railroad could be successfully run these days? Ooh. I don't know, bud.
Like for people?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, could you build a complete underground economy?
They have a complete underground economy for drugs.
Yeah, but I think...
And trafficking.
Yeah, but I think the way that the laws are written, I think the only way that the Underground Railroad works is if it's completely decentralized, right? There is no center hub. There is no center leadership. There is none of that. It's a whole bunch of decentralized communities, working together because the government wants the drug problem. They don't want us living free.
Right.
The government subsidizes the drug problem. They're not going to subsidize us living free.
No, they will not.
In fact, they will come harder down
on those who are trying
to live free than they will those in the drug war. Which isn't that crazy? And absolutely sad. I mean, we talk all about all of these, let's blow up all these ships Trump does down in Venezuela to stop the fentanyl coming in for our country. We've been waging war against the drug war forever, and all it's done has gotten worse. You guys remember the DARE program, like when I was in school? Right? We all drew posters of what DARE meant. It ain't no better. It's worse than it's ever been, and yet we spend billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars. Yeah, what do you bet it has nothing to do with drugs? That's a real issue. Gotham Girl 212, welcome in, says Trump supporters are mentally impaired. Oh, I don't know that I'd agree with that. I would say that it's hard because I would argue that Biden supporters are every bit of mentally impaired. And, so I don't know that I would necessarily agree with that. I would say that we're all at a different place in our journey and we're all learning. Now, with that said, and as I will talk a lot about tonight as we go on to the good news part.
We haven't even gotten there
yet. That Trump's hurting us in a lot of ways, and I'm not happy at all at what he's doing. But if my only choice in the election was going to be Trump or Biden, or let's not even pick on them, pick any other two politicians, and they say, oh yeah, but I got to vote for the less of the two evils. I don't like any of that. I just don't like any
Jones
of that.
plantation.
Right, it's the Jones plantation. Public figures complaining about the increasing cost of housing, but when one solution, build smaller, is suggested, it is vetoed. Our society does not want solution, only addiction and control. I agree 100%. When it would be super, super easy, would it not, instigator, to just say, hey, let's make it easy for people to have tiny homes. Right? Let's just stay out of it. Right? If you can prove to me that you have a safe septic system, a safe sanitary system, we'll leave you alone. Why does it have to be anything more than that?
Yeah.
Right?
We got to come measure it though. Make sure that you're not a foot off.
Yeah, Cindy says that tells you something, doesn't it? Yes, it does. Right, Hippocrates says we spend over the course, we spend billions on the war. Follow the money, another form of money laundering. Let's see here. Jen says the surveillance state will not allow that. If and until people completely go without cell phone, computers, internet, etc., it would not happen. Even the Amish milk guy got busted. Yep. Yeah, and again, this goes back to Jen, what we were talking about. How do you get people to walk away from convenience? Because I'm going to tell you, this life is not convenient. Right? It's hard. You know, we work really hard to make sure we have enough wood to get through the winter. We make it really hard to make sure the animals have enough food and that everything's prepared and that we're growing our food and that we're doing those things. And, you know, every day at the end of the day, I hurt. Right? Now, the good news is every morning I get up and I don't hurt at all. Right? It's the good news. Do you agree?
I still hurt in the morning.
I don't. But, you know, King says they are the same bird. They have the same goal. Yeah, and I've always found it interesting that they call them the right wing and the left wing, and that every bird has two wings. Mo Engineer says Civil War Underground Railroad, like moving people with the video surveillance, money tracking, plate readers, facial recognition, etc. I don't know. I don't know if that would even be possible. Cindy says, excuse me, surveillance state and full control of everything and everyone. Well, I think that's one plausible outcome, right? That's what we get, is the surveillance state and full control of everything and everyone, and you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. I think that's one version of it, right? I think there's another version, which is liberty wins and freedom wins.
Yeah, I didn't realize that that's what that meant.
What do you mean?
That you will own nothing and you will be happy, is because they're going to tax us out of owning anything. We're going to be like, just keep it.
What did you think I meant in the beginning of the live when I was talking about when the shit hits the fan? What did you expect? Did you expect that they were just going to come in and take everything from you one day?
I mean,
You think it was a joke?
No, I just thought that was something that they were saying, and then it's like, wow,
they meant
you guys
it.
really are, huh?
Yeah. And what a great way, you know. I mean, it's crazy. The city of Topeka, which is the capital city closest to me, just raised sales tax so that they could rehab the convention center. You have 2/3 of the population living paycheck to paycheck. You have property taxes, sales tax, and everything through the roof. Everybody's complaining, everybody's bitching and moaning, and they are so in touch with their constituents. They decided a great place to use money was to rehab a convention center. Right?
Isn't that privately owned?
Yeah. Oh, well, no, it's owned by the hospital, which is for profit, non-profit. How does a non-profit hospital charge you $37 for a Tylenol? If your shack doesn't meet code, you're kicked out. So 4 walls and a dry roof is bad, but being homeless on the street in a tent or under an overpass is acceptable.
It is acceptable. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that.
What?
That's true.
Yes.
That's absolutely true.
Yes. Yeah. Dana Green says Black Market Mo. I actually think, Mo, you should change your YouTube name to Black Market Mo. I like that. Yeah, Cindy says that's right, Dag. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I think it's a super, super hard thing to do, but if we don't get up and do something about it right now, what's the alternative? Do we just all take a big step back and wait for the balloon to pop and hope that at the time it pops, we're young enough, have enough resources, and have enough ability to do something about it? Or do we just sit back and do nothing, and pretty soon the grip gets so tight we all just strangle to death? You know?
So we're all homeless.
I mean, you know, what do you do?
What? Yeah. What about a family compound where you're all living on the same land, and that way you're all paying the property taxes?
That's a great idea, but here's the problem, and you know this, right? Every time you add a building that has a bathroom, now you have another tax.
Right. Never
You know,
mind.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you got the same
Right.
problem going on. You know, maybe you gain a little bit out of it, but then you also get into, well, it's got to have this number of acres and it's got to, you know, whatever, right? And you get into all of these other fights. Cindy says we should focus on what we can do to live life outside the matrix. Do not transaction their system. So what you are doing is valuable. Yeah, but again, that's hard because when you say let's live outside the matrix, let's not do business with them. So what happens when your car needs an oil filter? What happens when you need a pair of shoes? Right? What happens when you need feminine products? Right? I don't know anybody that has a oil filter manufacturing facility, a female, you know, hygiene processing facility, and a shoe processing facility all on the same farm. Right? Do you?
No.
So, I mean, I don't think that we can say we're not going to interact with the matrix. I think the question is, how can we limit the amount of time we have to interact with the matrix? Yeah, and I'd love to get there, Cindy. Love to get there. Black market, true, and mafia probably will be coming back with a vengeance. It is the side effect of socialism. That's actually a really great point. That is a really great point. Scotchy says, we do what we can where we're at. I think that's true. And I think we need communities everywhere. We need people to go stand up everywhere. Imagine if there was a big, loud, let's just say 200 people in every county, every state in the entire, you know, union. That would get pretty loud. That would get a lot of pushback. I mean, imagine if we could put 250 people at every commissioner's meeting this week in every county across the entire country.
That would say something.
It would say something.
They'd go, whoa.
Yeah, whoa. And then then national media would pick it up and it would be off and running, and it'd be hard to do, but I definitely think it would make a difference. General Akbar said it best. It's a trap. Star Wars reference. Nothing in this county, in this country is free. They want to control everything. Yep. And Startup, we keep talking about this over and over again. And so when is the time right for you? And I'm not suggesting you, I'm just speaking to you, but you going to walk in and say no more and stand up for it. You know, when are you going to go to the school board meetings and say, we're not teaching our kids this anymore, because if we can't get to the next generation, all of our work will have been for nothing. Right? When are you going to take that step? When does that time come? And I'm not suggesting you're not. Don't misunderstand, because you may be, and I just don't know about it. But I think I have to ask that same question of everybody. When does that day come? Right? True, but we could build it within the community and get there eventually. Yes. I think that the goal, Cindy, should be to strive, right, to get as free as we can. But in that, you know, again, it's about the journey. Can we get from 0% free to 20% free, and then to 40%, and then 60%, and then 80%? And it's a journey, but I have to tell you, I don't think there's any way to get to 100. Because again, I don't make my own shoes, right? And I love the way you worded what you said, because it's not about getting off grid. It's about getting off matrix. And that's a really, really hard task to achieve. You'll get further with community, but again, it's going to be pretty hard to get all the way there. Carrie Davis said, like the raw milk mafia. Yeah. Gratitude Grace says, let's hear some good news. Yes, I agree. You guys want to hear some good news? All right. So I have a theory I wanted to share with you guys that I've talked about before. Let's see here real quick here. Jen says, then you will be in trouble for inciting domestic T words. They'll find a way to pin something on you. Well, there's the good news. Anyway, you guys know that I've had this theory before. I've talked about this theory before, and I keep trying to watch for it, because it makes so much sense to me with everything going on behind the scenes. And that is, what are we really experiencing with the whole Trump phenomenon and you know, the stuff going around in the world, the protests that are going on everywhere, the threats of war, all of the stuff that's going on everywhere. And I've shared this with you guys before, but I really think what it is it's a beginning to think more and more that it's the battle of the new world order against the old world order. And it's really, you know, people who are vying for global control. And so I think what we have is, I think there's a shot at us that what it is, it's the World Economic Forum, NATO, the World Health Organization, you know, the Obamas, the Bushes, the Klauses, right? You have all of these world leaders on one side of the argument, and then the Trumps, the Putins, the Xi Jinpings on the other side. And I'm not 100% sure Xi Jinping's in this equation, but I think so. And I'm starting to wonder if what one side wants is a one world government, and what the other side wants is 2 or 3 or 4 dictators that control the entire world. And this is the fight, perhaps, that's going on behind the scenes. But don't take it from me, because there's other people who agree with me. This lady goes on to say, where have I heard this before? What if China, Russia, and others are coordinated with the President of the United States to eliminate the New World Order? Oh, that's right. It was that fat kid in his mom's basement who asked me that question in 2017. Probably just a coincidence. When Washington, Moscow, and Beijing hold strategic alignment talks without Europe, it exposes exactly what London fears. The center of global decision-making has shifted eastward. And what they're referring to is America, Russia, and Beijing just held strategic talks not long ago. He's picking a fight and provoking Europe by entering their territory. If he kicks off World War III and we side with Russia, okay, this is the MAGA side, right? We side with Russia. Every MAGA should be treated as a traitor, they say. So if you voted for Trump, this person thinks you should be charged with treason. 3 nuclear superpowers just met in Moscow, and the British Empire is in full panic mode. The Trump envoys, Putin, and Chinese foreign minister, the end of 300 years of imperial control. This is the geopolitical earthquake they don't want you to see. I buy into this a little bit, and this seems to make a lot of sense to me. And I don't know if this is true, but is what Trump and Putin and Xi Jinping really doing is vying to divide the world up? And that those powers are then taking on the new world order of, Europe and NATO and the World Health Organization and Klaus Schwab and all of those things. And this just seems to make more and more sense to me. If you think back, Trump was talking about we should take Greenland.
So you think that they'll try to have, like, Trump will try to run like Greenland and
I'm going to show you.
Okay.
I'm going to show you. But yeah, remember not long ago, we were talking about how Trump wanted to make Canada the 51st state.
Okay.
There were talks about making Mexico part of the United States. There were talks about Greenland being part of the United States, right?
Okay.
These have been going on for some time. Trump is setting the stage to leave NATO. I will not protect NATO members if they are not paying their fair share. And, he said this many, many times. The U.S. does not benefit from NATO. And I think this really is the moral of the story. I'll get back to that. But J.D. Vance just flipped the entire geopolitical script. According to him, Russia and China aren't Europe's biggest threat, right? So the Vice President of the United States said that Russia and China are not Europe's biggest threat. The real danger, he says, is Europe abandoning its own fundamental values of free speech to national sovereignty. Not tanks, not missiles, but internal decay, cultural erosion, and leadership that no longer represents the people. When a civilization stops defending what made it strong, it doesn't need enemies for it to fall.
Yikes.
Right. So this is the Vice President of the United States saying that, hey, the threat isn't China and it isn't Russia. I mean, those are his words. The threat is Europe itself, which what he's talking about there is the New World Order, the World Health Organization, NATO, right? That's what makes up that whole entire bloc. France just authorized Ukraine to use French Scalp missiles to strike deep into Russia. And as we were going live tonight, there were large explosions in Moscow. NATO fighter jets were scrambled after Russian nuclear Tu-95 bombers flying near Britain. I don't know if you watched this or not, but this basically some big nuclear bombers, Russian bombers, flew right off the British coast, which caused Britain to launch a bunch of fighter jets and all of this. So there was a chunk of Britain that got to spend its day under alert, launching launching airplanes and, all of these kinds of things. Thomas Massie went on to say, which I think this is kind of the moral of the story, is that NATO is a Cold War relic. And I think this is really what's causing a lot of this, because NATO is losing control. NATO is losing its grip. And because it's losing its grip, this is why we're seeing all this movement to World War III, why Russia's the bad guy, he's going to invade Poland. Why you see a lot of this is because NATO is gripping for some level of relevancy in the world. Remember earlier in the live, we were talking about how counties like where I live, they're so far removed from a trend. They're 20 years behind. So by the time they try to implement a solution that came out of California, the world's already changed. They don't even know they're stupid, right? They don't even know that they're ignorant, is a better word. They don't even know that they're ignorant. Well, I think this is a lot of that. This kind of gets a lot into that, exact point, is that the world is changing and it's changing fast. And I think that the push again to World War III, which they're talking about everywhere, is really a cause of one side feeling like they're losing power. I mean, what do you guys think the lengths, let me say it a different way, are deciders, right, in the world? What lengths will they go to stay in power? I mean, would they go so far as to manufacture a flu and send it around the world, call it a plague, do lockdowns and shut down entire economies? Think they would ever do that?
Probably.
Right? I mean, so to what length they would go.
Yeah.
The United States should withdraw from NATO, says Thomas Massey, and use that money to defend our country, not socialist countries. Today, I introduced Bill H.R. 6508 to end our NATO membership. I'm a big fan of Thomas Massey, and this will never go anywhere. Right? Starla says, one world government is the most important idea there is. We cannot get along now. How would we get along then? It would never work.
Ignorant, not important.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with nationalism. I don't think there's anything wrong with having pride. If you want to be proud to be American, be proud. You want to be proud to be white, be white. You want to be proud to be black, be black. You want to be proud to be Jewish, be Jewish. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with having pride in where you come from and who you are. Are you proud to be Mongolian? You should be.
Not necessarily.
The United States is reportedly setting a 2027 deadline for European allies to take over most of NATO's conventional defense functions, and may partially withdraw from some U.S.-led planning mechanisms in unsatisfied with the progress, according to recent reports. The core of the issue is the U.S. pressure on European nations to significantly increase their defense spending and capabilities. I feel that this issue is raising worries in numerous countries across Europe. Nonetheless, I can confidently state that there is no cause for anxiety. Right. NATO Secretary General goes on to mock Putin. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte mocked President Vladimir Putin's recent threats of war against Europe by pointing out that Putin was pictured in a military uniform far away from the actual front lines. Rutte's sarcastic comments followed a statement by Putin on Tuesday that Russia was ready for war with Europe if attacked. Rutte dismissed Putin's remarks as shows and part of the pattern of monthly provocations, emphasizing that Russia lacks the military capability to win against the Western alliance. In a conflict between NATO and Russia, there will be no winners, only losers, Russia went on to say. Nuclear weapons will likely be used, and that means civilian casualties will be enormous. I don't buy into any of this, just so you guys know. I think that the chances of nuclear war actually decrease every day. I don't think they increase. I think it's way more the threat of cyber, way more the threat of we'll shut down your power grid. Those things are going to be way more catastrophic than a nuclear missile. And in fact, I think I would even go so far as to say, just like NATO, nuclear weapons are kind of an artifact of the past.
In the past.
In a lot of ways. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody, but I think it does. Top Russian general just dropped a bombshell that Russia didn't just misjudge Ukraine when it invaded February of 2022. It was lied to from the very top. Colonel General Churkin finally admitted that Western analysts have called for ages, that Moscow believed. This is super interesting to me. What he was saying here is that their Western advisors from the United States, had them convinced that 70% of the Ukrainians were pro-Russian and that they would just welcome them in. And it turned out to be absolutely the reverse. And if anything, even worse, it's close to 99%. That's not intelligence failure. That's regime self-deception. And so I think it's interesting how much Russia and the United States and China actually work together behind the scenes. Another great example of that is Putin hits back at Trump. If the U.S. buys our nuclear fuel, why can't India? The U.S. said India shouldn't buy Russian oil, but guess who's still quietly buying Russian uranium to power its own nuclear plants? Yep, that's the United States. So I think it's interesting how the story itself didn't matter all of that much. What I wanted to point out was that America's buying nuclear fuel from Russia. Right? Do you buy nuclear fuel from your enemy?
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
I mean, I don't know. That sure seems a little bit
Off.
seems a little bit off to me, you know. The goal is to use Israel, Venezuela, and Ukraine to wash money out of the U.S. and European taxpayers and back into the hands of the transnational elite. The goal is the endless war, not a successful one. And I think this is right on too, because one of the ways that this World War III will continue to be fought is in places like Venezuela, in the Ukraine, in Somalia, in Iraq, in Afghanistan, right?
Why is
In
that?
those right now, Thailand,
Oil?
Thailand right now, just south of China, is sending troops across the border into Cambodia, and so you've got all these little micro wars going on, kind of all over the place. I mean, on Christmas, the United States with missiles struck 2 foreign countries, right? Syria and Sudan, I think it was, in Africa. Yeah, there you go. Jay, Citizen Broadcaster says war is a eugenics program. Yeah. Let's see here. Putin warns Europe. President Vladimir Putin recently warned that if European powers were to start a war with Russia, the conflict would end so swiftly and completely that there would be no one left to negotiate a peace deal on the European side. Julie, I think she said this to me before. Please call it nuclear, not nuclear.
Nuclear.
Nuclear. There won't be too much work for them to do to topple the Western nations. We are allowing it to happen from within via mass migration from countries we do not share values with and funding everyone else. Mo says that is like Orwell's 1984 endless war. The only thing that changed is who was fighting. Yeah, remember in what book was that? It was Glenn Beck's. Was it Agenda 21? How the enemy kept changing? Was that Agenda 20? I think it was. I think that was right. Anyway, super interesting. Let's see here. The U.S. is walking away from Europe. Can't break Russia alone as the war turns against Ukraine. I think this has been really important to watch Trump kind of back off of some of his support. Now we're still funding him. We're still sending them billions of dollars, but I don't think we're like super committed to it. I think we are barely doing it, right? I think we're just trying to keep things kind of going along and play the game and look like we're supporting NATO and that kind of stuff. But it sure seems like we're kind of like our commissioners here in our county on a solar farm. They're looking for a way out. That's what I would say. What do you think? U.S. Navy warns China may be in full-scale invasion as the best path to Taiwan unification. Pentagon states that Beijing could eventually view a full-scale amphibious invasion termed a joint island landing campaign as the only prudent option for compelling unification with Taiwan. This is despite the operation's high risk and China's stated preference for less escalatory methods. Chinese leader in the PLA capabilities improving, but remain uncertain about the success against Taiwan while the countering potential U.S. intervention. The report notes omission of peaceful unification language in recent high-level Chinese documents. The United States and China are on a path to conflict. On December 26th, today, the Chinese foreign military announced sanctions against 20 U.S. defense-related companies and 10 senior executives. Again, this is almost nothing, right? I mean, this is like them slapping back with just not really any real meat. Like they're pretending to be mad at each other. To me, the United States did say, though, that China is prepared to take Taiwan by 2027. Maybe they won't have to take them. Maybe it'll just be given to them, right? And I think I'll be able to get to that. Instigator said, I'm starting to wonder if the thousands of Starlink satellites are a ruse to make it too dangerous to try to escape Earth. Okay, I'm putting my tinfoil beanie back on. Xi Jinping says that no force in the world can prevent China from reclaiming Taiwan. He also said that there is no power in the world that can stop them from taking it back. And there are many exercises going on. But again, it seems to me that Russia, China, and the United States are playing a little bit of game of patty cake with each other. Wake up, Europe. The U.S. won't fight for Europe, even if Russia attacks it, a NATO country says. Former U.S. intelligence officer Scott Ritter. Americans have realized that the alliance is finished and that Russia can ensure strategic stability. Again, back to NATO, kind of being a relic. The European Union is fracturing. The Washington Post isn't even hiding it. A report now claims the White House is looking at pulling Hungary, Poland, Italy, and Austria out of the European Union's orbit. And again, these are countries that are fairly favorable to Donald Trump. The document may be denied, but the logic is unmistakable because the European Union is no longer a partnership. It is a bureaucratic tyranny that is anti-sovereignty, anti-free speech, anti-democratic, and increasingly anti-American, which again is why they will ultimately would split NATO up. You tracking?
Some.
And then on to Venezuela. Wholly based, Rubio just said the quiet truth out loud. When our carriers show up in Japan or in the Mediterranean, everyone claps. But the second an American puts a power in its own backyard, this is important, right? Suddenly it's a problem. If you are America first, you start with a hemisphere we actually live in, right? And then you notice all of the stuff going on in Venezuela. And, right now it's us blowing up drug boats, right? Or whatever it is. But I would argue that it's really about them being one of the largest oil producers on the globe. NATO chief Rutte tells Europe to prepare for war with Russia on a scale not seen since World War II. The unelected European Union Commission is now publicly calling for the United States of America a national security threat and an enemy. So Europe is referring to America as an enemy, right? They go on to reveals that he wants Europe to go to war with Russia. Again, says they need to arm themselves and America can't be counted on. Russia and China have hopefully defied U.S. sanctions and the world is barely reacting. Well, it's because they're playing patty cake, right?
Right.
The U.S. sanctioned tanker named Valera docked in China early today, carrying the first shipment from Russia's new LNG plant on the Baltic Sea. So basically, they just are ignoring the sanctions. And again, but I think this is about, they're just kind of playing politics with each other. They're playing the patty cake game.
Yeah.
I think waiting for.
They're like slapping at each other.
Right. Pretending to be mad. Another fascinating thing in this is the global trade dominance. If you look in 2000 at this graph, everything in blue was trade dominated by the United States of America. And by 2024, you look what's dominated by China. So I could see a place right here where America and even Russia in some places says, hey, let's negotiate, right? Let's find a different way. Maybe we can just divide it all up, right? America says, I'll take the blue. Russia says, I'll take the yellow. China says, I'll take the red. And we'll figure out what to do with Africa. Now, I'm not sure this is how it actually breaks down, but I do think it's quite interesting how the stuff going on with Venezuela, the comments about Iceland, Canada, Mexico, everything in our hemisphere, all of a sudden is becoming much more important to the Trump administration. China's, really tried hard to unify Taiwan. They want, more relationships with the Philippines and, that area. Now they hate Japan and they've made it very, very clear. So maybe that ends up blue. I don't know, but it sure makes some sense to me that maybe what we really have in this whole entire conflict is two bodies really trying to figure out who's going to run the world, and I don't necessarily know that any of them is to our benefit.
Yeah.
Right. That this is like voting, for Biden or Trump. Right. Or whatever. Pick one of them, any of the latest ones. But yeah, Pockery says that reminds me of the series The Man in the High Castle. That was a good series. If you guys haven't watched that, you should go watch that.
Did you watch that all the way through?
Yeah, you should watch it. It's really interesting. Our 3-letter agencies probably have something to do with each issue around the world. Guys, there's problems everywhere. And it seems like they are absolutely getting worse. In a breaking video, Senator Mark Warner just called for the U.S. military to overthrow President Trump's elected administration. So, it's interesting that you have Trump claiming that what he's fighting is the New World Order, but he's also fighting half of the United States, right?
Yeah.
So because you have all of these powers actively trying to overthrow him. Democrats are plotting a military coup, not of dictator Maduro, but of Trump. Obama's trigger puller, Leon Panetta, is fuming over the double tap hoax, and he wants to send Secretary of War Hegseth to Hague. And what he means by that to Hague is to the war tribunals that would go on. That's where like the Nazis were tried, and and all of those kind of things. Democrats are protecting the cocaine cowboys of the Caribbean, and they're calling them innocent fishermen. There's no such thing as a narco terrorist. Yeah. Mo says voting for a big douche or a shit sandwich, South Park. Yeah, I agree. Europe plots nuclear option against Trump. Reports have circulated that European unions are considering the nuclear option of dumping $2.34 trillion in U.S. debt if Donald Trump abandons the Ukraine. And it looks like he'll abandon Ukraine. And if they dump all of that debt, America's status as the reserve currency would be threatened. Dan Lammy just announced the abolition of jury trials for any case with a potential sentence of 3 years or less, all in the name of swift courts to speed things up. By 2028, they're projecting 100,000 cases a year will be handled this way. Judge alone, no jury of your peers. How are they getting away with this? Guys, this is happening right now in Britain. Right? No elections, higher taxes, no juries, digital ID, more facial recognition. This is what happens when you hand in your guns. This is why the Second Amendment means so much, right? Because this is happening to places where they can't defend themselves. Right across history, from Mussolini to Hitler to Franco to Mao to Pol Pot to Saddam Hussein, tyrants have rushed to kill jury trials. Now in 2025, UK risks joining a grim roll call that would include Lenin, Mussolini, Hitler, Franco, Castro, Pot, Hussein, Gaddafi, al-Assad, Khomeini, Chavez, the list goes on, and now Ken Stalmer in Great Britain. Right, Venezuela was at the UN. The truth is brutal and criminal. The U.S. government is threatening an armed attack against Venezuela to satisfy the ConocoPhillips and ExxonMobil, which are pioneers of the theft of Venezuelan oil. The children of American families will be ordered to risk their lives to line the pockets of oil company shareholders with billions of dollars, while thousands of Venezuelans and American families are destroyed. Breaking news, UN experts break the silence on Venezuela. They denounced that the U.S. maritime blockade is illegally armed aggression and a direct violation of the United Nations Charter. See how the United Nations is kind of turning on America too, right? You can see them pulling back. You can see NATO's pissed about it. And so they're beginning to push that along. And Russia begins evacuating families and its diplomats from Venezuela amid rising tensions with the U.S. Women and children are being moved out as Moscow describes the situation as increasingly grim. On December 25th, yesterday, Moscow accused the U.S. of piracy, condemning American naval actions in the Caribbean. Tensions are the highest over U.S. ship seizures, and Washington enforces a de facto naval blockade against Venezuela. Hey, Okie Ranch wife. How are you? Good to see you. That's good news, right, babe?
Not necessarily.
End of the world insanity, said Alex Jones. To stay in power, NATO's European Union / NATO's business plan is to provoke Russia into an all-out nuclear war, take over their territory, and break it into pieces as fuel for their globalist system. A strange game. The only way to win is not to play. But I think this is kind of right. I mean, I think when you see powers losing their grip of power, laws become more absurd. And if you look back at the Roman Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the British Empire, this was true for all of them, is that the laws became more and more absurd. The stories became more and more absurd as they lost power. NATO says preemptive strikes on Russia could be considered a defensive action. Talk about newspeak in 1984, Mo, right? Look at that headline. Preemptive strikes on Russia could be considered defensive actions, right? How could it be defensive if you weren't attacked? You're about to wake up into a very different country, says the Daily Pulse. What's coming won't feel like a war, but when it lands, you'll realize everything familiar is gone. A leaked draft of a new AI executive order reveals a sweeping plan to override states' laws using the Department of Justice to sue any state that dares to resist. That includes laws protecting children, banning deep fakes, or blocking digital ID systems. You're already living inside the digital prison. Most just haven't noticed the walls going up. AI is replacing judges, teachers, and even parents while tracking everything that you do. And now they're preparing to use federal funding to crush any state that pushes back. This isn't progress. It's the infrastructure of obedience. I love that.
Obedience.
Yeah. Let's see, what's this? Life has been, Ranch wife says, life's been crazy and YouTube has abbreviated me. Keep stocking food to the rafters. I agree. NATO Secretary Mark Rutte says we must be ready for the scale of war our parents and great-grandparents endured. And he was referring to World War I and World War II. The narrative being laid for a false flag is blamed on Russia to start a war to hide the incoming financial crisis. At the end of the day, like, this makes a whole lot of sense to me, that big, massive world war would hide the crushing financial system. And it's not just America's, it's America's, Europe's, it's all of them. I mean, the amount of debt, we're over $38 trillion in debt, right? And it just keeps going every single day.
Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, Americans are being bled to death through taxation as they are in other parts, you know, kind of the world.
Yeah.
Mo says most U.S. indictments today are not handled by a jury. It is by a reduced sentence for lesser conviction. Actually being guilty is less of a concern these days. Let's see here. Mike Benz on censorship. So they said we need something to stop them from being able to combat our media influence, saying that the new nature of war is no longer about military to military conflict. All we need to do is to take over their media in these NATO countries. And that's primarily social media. Get one of our pawns elected as a president, and then that president will control the military. So it's much cheaper and more efficient to win a military war by simply winning civilian elections. So that was called the Gerasimov Doctrine. That's what set up the early censorship infrastructure. You like that?
That's what's in New York.
Red Pill Dispenser says Europe is not preparing for war. It's preparing for collapse. These elites aren't gearing up for war with Russia because they care about freedom. They're doing it because their grip on power is slipping fast. This was my point, right? In a shocking betrayal of President Trump urging efforts to end the Ukrainian war, Senator Lindsey Graham has called for the U.S. to go all in arming Ukraine with deadly Tomahawk cruise missiles to strike deep into the Russian territory. And again, this is why I talk about the New World Order versus the Old World Order, right? The Republicans, the Democrats, Lindsey Graham and Nancy Pelosi, same bird, different wing, right? Fighting on one side of a New World Order and then the Old World Order. Maybe the Old World's the New World.
I was going to say,
Right.
so which one's which?
I don't know, you know, but clearly lines are being drawn. The European Union moved the digital euro for the ECB forward yesterday on December 24th, 2025, just before Christmas. Same playbook as 1913 when the Federal Reserve Act was passed, while Congress and the public were preparing for Christmas. So basically, the European Union brought on the digital euro while everyone was on vacation for Christmas, right? The vice is closing on the detached, self-absorbed European Union ruling caste. Europe is simmering with rage as citizens watch their nation suffocate under corruption, censorship, mass immigration, ideological fanaticism, and institutional failure. Brussels has become a sealed bunker of arrogance, deaf to reality, and hostile to its very own people. Yeah, Kerry Davis says it's all central casting. Let me get rid of that right there. Klaus Schwab announces the end of privacy. You'll have to get used to it. You have to start behaving accordingly. But if you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't be afraid.
Mm-hmm.
World Economic Forum founder Klaus Schwab told delegates at a conference this week in China that humanity needs to be forced into collaboration. Right? Schwab stated that in order to drive the fourth industrial revolution forward, cities must aggressively drive their agenda home. That makes me feel good. What do you think?
No.
Make you feel good?
No.
No. Okay. Starting December 27th, Australians will now need to upload their ID every time they log in to do an internet search.
Oh.
Remember how we told you that they were going to outlaw social media for the youth?
16-year-olds, yeah.
16-year-olds. But how do you know how old somebody is? See how this impacts far more than a year? That's right. No, what they do is they're going to scan their ID. So now, not only did they get rid of social media for 16-year-olds, but now what they did is now they're tracking who goes to what site, when, where, how, because they happen to scan their IDs, in order to be able to get on. So it wasn't just about taking rid of social media for 16-year-olds, was it? Right? It'll link to your digital ID and you'll use something like facial recognition. Newsflash, this isn't really to protect children, but extreme totalitarian inclusions on freedom and privacy always requires a benign and innocent surrounding pretext to dupe the gullible into accepting them without resistance. Say you're going to protect the kids from social media, let's ban kids for social media, but in order to do it, you're going to have to scan your ID.
Yeah.
Right?
They know what website you're going to because of your IP address.
Much harder though, is they get everything.
Well, once you're scanning your ID, then that's
right. You're just making it simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler and simpler. Right. The 27th of December is coming closer and closer, and soon to use Google, we will have to verify our identity. There is still no concrete information about how this will be achieved. All I know is that it has nothing to do with protecting kids. It's about control. And this is down in Australia, right? Every search will be tracked, every user verified, and the government deciding who gets to get online. This is happening right now in Australia. The Trump administration slams Keir Starmer over the online safety bill. Now we're talking about England, okay? Trump administration just sent the strongest message yet. It was a direct hit. They're calling on UK's Online Safety Act exactly what it is, not safety, but control, and the red line couldn't be clearer. I'm going to kind of blow through some of this because I'm running out of time. Let's see here. Parents will have no rights to their children. If they allow their children to use their accounts, they could be blocked and suspended. The age verification bill isn't just for the under 16s. It's aimed at adults too. This is only the beginning of online censorship.
Yeah.
And there you go. NITOs for the win. Hence the need for data centers.
Wow.
Yep. Elon Musk said, I acquired X in order to preserve freedom of speech. And in America, the First Amendment, and I'm going to stick to that. If that makes me lose less money, then so be it. Will the youth of Australia comply or stand up and fight like the youth of Nepal? Nepal lifts social media ban after 19 killed in protest against corruption. A broader social media ban in September 2025 on platforms like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, YouTube, and X sparked those revolts, and then they ended up backing down. Locals set 5G mast ablaze in Southampton. I don't know if you guys are following this or not, but there are protests and riots going on everywhere. Right now in France, Lithuania, Netherlands, Georgia, New Zealand, Britain, India, Palestine, Sudan, Australia, Israel, Bangladesh, Scotland, Hungary, Pakistan, Bulgaria, and Poland. The people are in the streets saying enough's enough. I wonder what it will take for us here in America to stand up and say enough's enough. Look at all those people.
Yeah.
You know what's the most fascinating about this? You won't see any of this on the mainstream news.
Right.
None of it. The government says digital IDs are there to protect you and make your life easier. Remember, we talked about convenience. How do we get people to walk away from convenience? But they're going to use them to exclude you from society, just like a vaccine passport. If you're a pureblood, they'll turn off your chip first chance they get. I think at the end of the day, the bottom line is we have to stop looking for our rulers. We have to start looking for the deciders to control what's best for us. We have to take accountability for ourselves. I've used this example a million times, guys, but you can be the lion in the Serengeti and you can deal with, food competition. You can deal with predators. You can deal with the weather conditions. You can deal with all of these things, but you can run free and you can have the wind on your face, or we can be the lion in the zoo where all of our needs are met, but our dreams are on the other side of the cage. This is the choice we get to make. And as long as you want to tippy toe in the middle ground, nothing is going to get fixed, right? We have to commit to one side of the argument or the other. Squad just said yes, data centers for the win, all knowing and all seeing. Yep. My off-grid property, 1 land, 2 energy, 3 library. Yeah, library's a big one. We mentioned before that the national debt's $38 million, approaching $39 million. And just, I thought I'd share with you guys a very ironic number. You see that bottom number, 33 million, right? $600 billion. You know what that number is? That's how much money there is collectively in 401k plans. So if we could just take a 401k, which where does the name 401k come from, right? Section 401-K of your IRS code, right? If they would just take that money and issue an IOU, they'd damn near pay off the national debt. What do you think? Right here in Kansas, spending is $39.7 billion, even though our revenue is only $28 billion, which means the debt's $12,000 a piece right here now that's just at the Kansas level, right? Because if you look at it from a national level, the federal debt's 38 trillion. The federal U.S. total debt's 105 trillion if you count unfunded liabilities or guarantees, right? The federal debt per taxpayer is $329,000 plus, right? The state debt, right? Even though the federal revenue's only 3,000. What did he say? Isn't that trillion? Isn't that trillion? $38 trillion in debt. Yes, I'm not sure what, I've said a lot of numbers. Hell and Happy Harvest, I'm not sure which one you are referring to. New York Times came out with a post recently saying we need to regulate homeschooling, right? We cannot trust parents. Problem is, if you look at the numbers, public school, 40% of kids are bullied, 30% are sexually harassed, 34% read at grade level, and we spend $18,000 a year. Homeschoolers, 0% are bullied, 0% are sexually harassed, and 99% read above grade level for $1,000 a year. Right? We need to stop investing in systems that no longer that betray us. Wages are lower now than they were 17 years ago. In 2009, if you adjust for inflation, yet the cost of everything has gone up by 63.2%. And this, you guys, is what I meant by what did you expect when the shit hit the fan? This right here, right? If cost of everything is up 63%, but your wages are the same as they were in 2009, adjusted for inflation, this is how they squeeze you to death, right? This is not hard to figure out right here.
Stuff that you don't think about.
Yeah. Well, and again, this is kind of what I meant, again, by what did we expect? You know, I think a lot of people think about the shit hits the fan and they think, you know, it's going to be this moment.
Yeah.
That we're going to prepare, and there's going to come this moment. And this moment, the lights are going to go out, but it's not how it works. It's a long spectrum.
Well, you don't even know what's going on because you're told other things, you know, because we can't handle the truth.
Yeah, we clearly can't handle the truth. But I think the shit hits the fan. I think the shit hitting the fan is already here. It's just, it comes for different people at different stages. This is why, you know, I've come to this realization. I'm not going to look at the person holding the sign, will work for food. You know, I look at them different than I used to. Not that all of them are hardworking, because many of them take advantage, but I'm going to tell you, some of them, the shit at the fan just came from them before, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, they're just trying to figure out how to survive. And you can look at it through, you know, China, the lines and lines and lines of people sleeping on the streets now because their social credit score got too low. You know, those are the people that stood up early, right? And this was like kind of to Mo's point, right?
Right.
And, but they're paying the price today. And, you know, all they did maybe is say something negative or post, you know, some social media page. So I think we have to really resist these things, which gets us all the way back to the beginning of this live tonight. I wanted to add that one and I wanted to remove that one. That'd be better, right? Gets us all the way back to the beginning, which is, what do you do about it? What do you do about all this craziness stuff that's going down? First thing is, it's not going to be zombies. It's not going to be those things. It's not going to be some big event that comes. By the time that event comes, it's probably long been in the works. What we need to do is find our allies. We need to get educated on the system, on how the system works. We need to get educated on how to provide for ourselves and stop looking for comfort. Right? Stop looking for convenience. Stop looking for the easy switch. Try to make the easy switch for yourself. in your own way, and by
Yeah.
growing your own food and producing your own, energy. Try to work on your income, to Mo's side. How do we feed the system less, but yet have the resources we need,
Right.
to continue to go and fight? We've got to go get involved. We've got to show up at our school board meetings. We've got to show up at our county commissioner meetings. And more importantly than that, we've got to talk to our neighbors. We got to go visit them. We got to have these hard conversations. We got to talk about these kinds of things, because that's the only place that real change is going to come from. We have to understand this game's long. This is the long game. What we have to do is plant seeds today that we're going to water and water and water and hope to get a harvest out of someday. We're going to remove the fronts if they could come after us, Ann. And this again is food and power and energy and income. How can we make it where those kinds of things can't be held up over our head, where those are things that can't take us out of the game because we provide it from ourselves? And more importantly, what we're going to do is we're going to do something about it every single day. Right? Something. Pick something on the list. Tomorrow, work on feeding us better. Right? Tomorrow, I'm going to make your job of feeding us better a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to work on something that help us get there. I think with that, I'm going to get out of here today. You got anything else you want to talk about, me?
I wore my Hold the Line shirt because that was what I was gonna say was hold the line.
What's that mean?
Well, when we're not gonna go any farther than that. That's it. That's when you have come to that line in the sand and you say no more, then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to go any farther. That's when I say I'm not going to buy another can of whatever, I'm not going to do it. That's it. Or I'm not going to do it. And if that means that we're going to eat chickpeas instead of beans, then that's what we're going to do. Because if I don't have it, we're and I said we weren't going to do it, then we got to find other ways.
Yeah, I think it's really cool how you hold the line to I'm not buying that canned food anymore. Because most people, when you hear hold the line, you're thinking about it from a political perspective of they're not going to tax me anymore. But that's not really what you're saying.
Well, I mean, it could be whatever your hold the line
could
is.
be, but what you're talking about is I'm going to commit to living a life of freedom. I'm going to commit to not taking the easy button and the easy way out. And I think I'll leave you guys with Citizens Broadcaster, who said, let's take care of each other. I like that idea. Tag out.
I like that idea. Be out.
Good night, everybody. See you guys in a week.